And we're back. It is COMP125, and it's client-side web development, and it's lesson 3, week 3, lesson 3, here in our summer of 2016. We've had a couple of nice days. Looks like the next week is going to be nice too, in terms of temperature, right? No rain. It's not so much rain anyway. We're talking about JavaScript here. And last day we talked about a little bit of exception handling. We're following the PowerPoints. We missed a day because of Victoria Day. So we have to move on a little bit. And I prepared a PowerPoint presentation that is up online for you on eCentennial. Really, it talks all around, if you look at lesson 3, it talks all around arrays and controlling flow. Now, flow control, right? When we talk about flow control in programming languages, it's all around, you know, how we use things like conditional statements, like if statements, you know, things like while loops, looping structures, right? While loops, if, you know, for loops, do while loops, all those things that we've seen in other programming languages, because JavaScript is a C-influenced language. So C means the traditional C, which is, I told you before, the Latin of all languages, or more modern languages, C. You know, because it's influenced like that, it's the same structures that exist in those languages exist here pretty much. Same thing with operators. One thing we didn't have a chance to nail last week was operators, right? Things like the plus, the minus, you know, the division sign, and so on. Order of operations, all that stuff is the same as we have in other languages. So if you've done another language like C# or Java, you pretty much know how to do operators, okay? So we did that last week. Also last week we talked about functions, okay? And there's two types of functions, or two ways of writing functions. What are the two ways? Anyone tell me? I'm gonna start naming names. I'm looking at Tatiana over here because, you know, she's in my line of sight, right? Tatiana, tell me, what are the two ways of writing functions? Anonymous function, yes. What's the other way? It's the opposite of anonymous. Named functions. There's two functions, named functions and anonymous type functions, okay? Remember when we do named functions, right? Let me just bring up last week's stuff. And by the way, for me, I'm going to use, just to prepare ourselves for today's lecture and lab combo, right? Please bring up last week's lesson 2. We're going to make a copy of this, so I'm not going to just make a brand new one just to save time. And today we have one short class. So we're going to right-click here on our lesson. We're going to copy and paste, or if you're on the Mac, you just duplicate. And what it'll do is it'll make a copy of the folder. One thing to do when we make a duplicate like this, right? We're just going to call it lesson 3, and I'm going to put it up on GitHub in a second for everyone who's going to run behind me. I'm going to run a little bit quicker today than normal. So if you think I was running quick before, be prepared. Today's going to be a quicker day. Not because I want to lose everybody. It's not the reason, but only because we got a lot of material to cover in a very short time. All right, so lesson 3. What I want to do here is I want to get rid of the Git repository that's attached to lesson 3. Why would I want to? Because if you look at the lesson 3, it doesn't show anything here. On the Windows machines, it would show hidden folders. I'm not showing them on the Mac. But just to give you a sense of that, if I bring up terminal on the Mac or command prompt on Windows, and if I go CD space, Windows works the same way, and I drag my folder onto my terminal and press enter, it'll take me to that folder. Now take a look here. It says master. When I see master on the Mac, I know that there is a hidden .git repository, right? Same thing, even if I've copied it over. When I copy a whole folder structure, I copy the hidden .git folder. I don't want that one because that points to the other Git repository on GitHub. I want a brand new one. What to do? Get rid of it. How do I do it? On the Mac, you have to do something like this. If you want to see the Git folder, you can see ls-al, just like you would do on a Linux machine, right? And you can see that there's the .git folder, right? We can get rid of it by just using rm space minus rf, and then the name of the folder, .git. Okay, that'll get rid of it on a Mac. Now be careful, don't do rm minus rf star, right? You'll kill your system, right? But that's, God, did I even say that? I shouldn't tell you, right? Even though you should already know, but don't do it because, you know, it's like walking on, don't walk on the grass, and people walk on the grass. All right, Don't enter. Beware of dogs. People go there anyway, right? Doesn't matter. So we got rid of the folder. That's one thing. Now on the Windows machine, if you're using a Windows machine, you just right-click on the .git folder and get rid of it. So right-click and delete, and then get rid of the .git folder. Now we have a brand new a folder, and we're going to set it up manually. If you've got everything running on your terminal or command prompt, you can just simply do something like this. Git init, right, which will initialize the Git repository. Right? I'm going to clear the screen so you can see it nicely. Git init. And then I'm going to git add dot. Git add dot says add everything to the Git repository. Right? Actually, that adds everything to the staging area. Right? And then the next piece is git commit -m for message, and then we'll say initial commit, just like we normally do. Okay, done. Right? So we've added everything to that .git folder. Notice that my master here on my terminal on the Mac, it showed this asterisk. Now it's gone. That basically says that your master's up to date, right? If you're using git bash on the Windows system with a git command prompt, it'll show very similar things. All right. If I go ls-al on Mac, I see that there's another hidden .git folder again. It's back, but now with the latest git folder, and there is no connection between this folder and the other one on GitHub. Let's make a new one, a new Git repository. So I'm going to go up to GitHub for a second, and I'm going to hit Centennial, so you guys can follow along for this particular demo. And notice that I have a bunch of other ones. We're going to make only one. There's not going to be a VS Code or Visual Studio one. It's just going to be VS Code. So make a new repository here, and we're going to call it comp, again, 125, and it's lesson 3, right? When I press create repository, you can see that I get the directions on how to add remote. I just want to take these last 2 lines, whether you copy them or type them, it's totally fine. You can type them as well. If it's copying doesn't work, some people's machines, copying doesn't work. And then what I want to do is paste them here. So paste them, and then press enter so I can push my origin to master. You may have to enter your credentials if you don't have your WinCred set up on your Windows machines. You could also use the Windows desktop tool if you're not comfortable with the command line. It's totally fine. This is not a command line course, right? However, I recommend you learn your command prompts stuff as soon as possible, because it'll help you with more advanced courses like emerging technologies, if you ever do that course, COMP308, as well as COMP397, which is web game programming, which I kind of do both those courses, as well as COMP392, which is advanced graphics. All those courses, if I do them, they all require a command prompt, and if you don't learn it now, you'll get a crash course later. And so it's just get used to it now is what I'm saying, if you can. But I can't. You're the developer. You do what you feel comfortable. All right, that's cool. So I'm going to clear the screen now. I've got my Git repository all set up. Let's just check this to see what it looks like online. So from now on, you can see that I've got some content here under, if you want to follow along, if I'm going too fast, under Centennial College, COMP125, lesson 3. Now, there's some stuff from last week. We got to fix that. Let's do that. So what am I going to do? I'm going to bring up my Visual Studio Code. Close this window for a second. I'm going to bring up my Visual Studio Code. And remember how we add new things to Visual Studio? We just drag and drop, right? I do very similar things with Sublime or with Atom or with brackets. It's very similar, the way we add things on. Okay, there we go. And we can see here under scripts, we have one script, app.js. And what I want to do for this example is get rid of all this stuff. All this stuff that we got in here, let's get rid of it all. So we're just going to clear the script off, just so that way we don't confuse anybody. All right. And we talked about a couple other things. So we also talked about event handling last week. Whew, event handling was a big one, eh? Event handling is one of the most confusing pieces of any language, not just JavaScript. What's the preferred way to do event handling, to set up an event listener in JavaScript? What's the preferred way? How about I ask you a question? Is it inline? No, don't do it inline. Wait, don't say that. You're spoiling my fun. All right. So it's not inline. You don't do it inline, right? Do you use the on and then followed by the command structure? So whatever the command is, you could. You might see it some places, but really the best way to do it is the add event listener. All right, that's add event listener. If you use the add event listener keyword, that's the best way to make event listener happen. Let's fix our index.html here just so it shows, instead of lesson 2, it shows lesson 3. Yay, lesson 3. And we have our first paragraph with a hello world. We're just going to change our hello world to say lesson 3. And we're going to call this thing arrays. And we also, what's it called again? Arrays and flow, right? Control flow. Yeah, that's right. Arrays and control flow. Right now, remember, I'm gonna try and give you everything you need for your lab 2, which is due this Friday at midnight. Lab 2 is for 2% of your final grade, right? It's all based on arrays and control flow. So let's look at that lab for a second really quickly so you can remind yourselves of where to focus your time and attention, right? So I'm going to go back to my Centennial, log in, nice pictures. I had time to take those kind of selfies. Let us go into here. No, I don't. And let's look at client-side web development. You can see under Dropbox, I have a new lab. Lab 2 is called paragraph arrays, right? Paragraph arrays. That's going to give us a practice and help you with your assignment 1. All right, that's what it's supposed to be for. They kind of link together, right? So that we don't give you more stuff and then you don't focus on assignment 1, because that's really what I want you to do. All right, so if I look at this little lab, it says, do this Friday. Create a simple web application with the following capabilities. Stores 3 simple paragraphs of text in an array structure, 1 paragraph per array element. What are array elements? They're the containers in an array. We'll talk really quickly about arrays. Actually, it'll help you guys who are doing C# with me too, because you'll see it all again, right? Yay. Outputs each of the 3 paragraphs to 3 separate pages, home, projects, and about, as an example, right? You can use other pages if you like. Example, if you're using your assignment 1, you could use what I'm telling you here to help you with assignment 1 too, right? Kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone, right? Each page will use the same JavaScript file. Ooh, oh, how do we do that? And I don't want any errors on the page, right? Because if you look for stuff that doesn't exist, you're going to get an error, right? So how do I do stuff without getting an error? Okay. So we'll talk about this stuff. And this is due. All I need is a zip archive of your web application, a link to your web application GitHub repo, and a link to your live link on, I made that wrong, live site on Microsoft Azure or the school server, whichever one you want to use. Yes. I haven't mentioned any CSS right now, right? If I start talking about CSS, pretty soon you guys are going to go crazy, right? The JavaScript is enough for now. Like, zip up your folder and put it up on, yeah, your friend will tell you. Okay, let's go to the next level. So if we're going to do this, let's leave this up for a second so I can go back to it and refer to it. I want to go here, and I've got my first paragraph. I only have 1 page, index.html. We'll make 2 more. We'll make one that's called projects and another one that's called, I don't know, bio or something like that, like, you know, about me kind of thing, right? I need some way to link to these pages too, which means I need some kind of navigation structure. Oh man, I'm not going to type navigation structure from scratch. It's a pain in the... So instead of doing that, I'm going to use Bootstrap for the very first time, right? Okay, let's see what Bootstrap is, right? So I want to talk about a couple things at once, like I said. So what is Bootstrap? First of all, where do you see it? You go to the following link, getbootstrap.com, right? We don't want to talk about CSS because it's not a CSS course, but I'm going to talk about a CSS framework that's very, very popular out there called Bootstrap. And if you haven't heard of it, who's never used Bootstrap? Anybody? That's good. You guys are going to be awesome after this, right? Bootstrap makes you, gives you CSS superpowers, eh? It makes you look like a CSS wizard, okay? Even if you don't know anything about CSS, right? You can still use this and be awesome, all right? What do we do with Bootstrap? First, we have to download and install Bootstrap. So here's Bootstrap right here. Download Bootstrap. Go here. Click the big download button. Yeah. There's different ways of doing it. We can use the Bootstrap CDN. What's a CDN? Anybody? It's a content delivery network. Content delivery network means that the CSS files for this front-end framework are stored in the cloud, right? I can link to it without actually downloading anything. That's nice. If we were going to make a production site, I would do that. But because we're in development and you guys are developers, right? Sometimes it's good to download the libraries and have them locally. So that's what we're going to do here. There's 3 options. Bootstrap, download the whole thing, source code, and you can also download SAS, which is make you a superpowered genius when it comes to CSS, right? We're not going to use SAS because that's the topic of another course, right? But highly recommend you learn if you want to do web development in the future. SAS is awesome. It's you have to compile it into regular CSS, and there's different ways to do that. But highly recommend to learn this stuff. We're not going to talk about it in this course. Okay, let's talk about this. Download this Bootstrap link right here. Okay, so download it. Notice that I get this distribution, this bootstrap-3.3.6, this.zip, all right? I want to put this somewhere, like, for example, in my downloads folder. So I'm going to put this in, let's say, on my desktop folder. Let's put my desktop folder for now. Here's my desktop, right? And inside my desktop, I have my COMP125. Inside there, I have my COMP125 lesson 3. So right inside my web folder, I'm going to just drag and drop it in here, my zip file, and save. When I do that, I'm going to unzip it. Now, there's different ways to do that. On the Mac, all I have to do is click on it once, and it's unzipped. Done. Here, I have my Bootstrap distribution file, my zip file. I'm going to get rid of it. On Windows, you can right-click if you have 7-zip or WinZip or some other archival program, and then say extract here. You can also do it with your File Explorer has built in as well. Notice that I have, under the Bootstrap folder, I have CSS, fonts, and JS. All right? Now, these don't make any sense for me in my current folder structure because I have content and scripts and assets. Haha. Right? So I want to take my JavaScript, Bootstrap, all this stuff here. Other than the NPM, I want to take my bootstrap.min.js and my bootstrap.js. Forget NPM. You don't need that. Get these two, right? And drag and drop it into my scripts folder, right? Like this. Whoop. Done, right? And then fonts. Ooh, I need these ones, right? And unfortunately, it has to be, notice where they are right now. It has to be in a folder that's adjacent to the CSS folder. So without moving CSS for Bootstrap, take a look, right? Because this would be a bad thing to do. Grab your fonts and your CSS folder and drag both those two things into the content folder like this. Drag it, content, okay? Now this would work on Mac and Windows, okay? Now get rid of this bootstrap.3.3.6 distribution folder because you don't need it anymore. Bam. All right, so we have part of it. We have in our scripts, we have our Bootstrap stuff plus our own app.js. And then in our content folder, we have our CSS and our fonts and our own app.css, which is custom for the website, okay? We need one more thing. We can't run Bootstrap without jQuery, right? jQuery, first time you're going to see it, if you haven't seen it before, let's go to jQuery.com, follow me. jQuery.com has the latest iterations of a library called jQuery, which is actually a feature-rich JavaScript library. It's just a series of functions that have been pre-written for us to make JavaScript easier. We're not going to use it right now. We're going to use it towards the end of our course. I want you to learn vanilla JavaScript first. That's what it's called, vanilla JavaScript, as opposed to anything else to help us out, because otherwise you won't learn JavaScript. You'll be learning jQuery, right? So let us download jQuery here. Notice when I click download, there are different options, right? Here's the thing we need to do here. Notice that there are two versions, jQuery 1.x and jQuery 2.x. If you're using older systems or want to be compatible with older systems, you want to focus on jQuery 1.x. I don't care about that. All I care about is showing you how to use Bootstrap. So we're going to use jQuery 2.x instead, right? What do I download? It says the compressed production jQuery. I definitely want that. And I definitely want this map file. Take a look. There's two files here, the map file for jQuery and this compressed production version. So let's download those both. If I click onto it, it's going to say, hey, here's my jQuery 2.2.min.js. You may have to also right-click and press Save As if you're using a Windows system. All right, and I want to take this jQuery 2.2.min.js and put it inside my scripts folder, like this. That's part one. Part two, get that map file. Where it says the map file. Map files describe JavaScript so we can do debugging, right? And to show us where the errors are. So right-click on the map file, and for compatibility reasons, we want to use them. Or you can actually click on the map file, and then where it says jQuery-2.2.4.min.map, put that in the same folder as the jQuery file. You put it under scripts and press save. Whoop. Done. If you really are a stickler and you want to look at jQuery, you can also download the uncompressed version. It's not going to hurt you. So download this one too, just for posterity, right? Whew, same place, put it in the same place. And now let's take a look at our folder structure that we see here inside of our document. Notice that inside here we have the following: app.js, bootstrap.js, bootstrap.min.js, jQuery.2.2.4.js, jQuery.2.2.4.min.js, and jQuery-2.2.4.min.app. These are all the things in strips. Under content, we have two: CSS, has all these bootstrap files, as well as this fonts folder that has all the glyph icons we can use. All right, this is nice. This is really nice. Yes. So wait till I put it up on GitHub and then download it from there. If you have trouble downloading anything, and if you really want to wait, you can always download my version and drag and drop from mine to yours. Okay, so that way it'll save your problems. Yes. I just downloaded it. So if you go, so if you go here, you go look to this map file, right click and save it there. Okay. Okay, so I've got jQuery, and you know what? I want my navigation bar, because I want my stuff to look awesome, right? I want my navigation bars to have icons, because icon fonts look awesome compared to you and work better than actual images. If I use images for my icons, it takes a lot more work. The new thing lately is icon fonts. So guess what? There's like a library for that, right? I'm not going to make my own, right? Because this isn't about that. And I want you to direct you to font-awesome. Use that is really nicely compatible, and you can find it at Fort Awesome. So Fort Awesome, fontawesome.io. Font Awesome, right here it is. And Font Awesome is this really cool icon font library. And if you don't want to see what it looks like, right? If I go and look at some fonts like this, these are icon fonts, right? It's an actual font, but it looks like an image, and it's lightweight, so it loads really quickly, as opposed to an image. If I grabbed an image file, like a ping image or a TIFF image, and put it inside my, my navigation bar or something, it takes long to load, right? And loading times, we talked about this, right? The longer loading times it takes, people leave the site. They don't want to go there, right? So Font Awesome is a way to fix that. Let's download it by clicking download, right? Notice that it says, hey, you can get all this other stuff. Take your icon game to the next level with Fort Awesome. Yeah, nice. We're just going to go, no thanks, just download Font Awesome, right? And notice that there's a zip file again. We're going to take this up to the main level of our lesson. So lesson 3, where we have font-awesome 4.6.3 in a zip format. We're going to download that now. Whoop, done. Downloaded it. And let's unzip it like before, however you did it on your Windows or Mac system. I'm going to unzip mine. There it is, Font Awesome. Now we're going to make some movements here too. Get rid of the zip folder. And inside my Font Awesome, notice that I have a bunch of stuff: CSS, fonts, less, CSS, nice, beautiful things. We don't need them all though. All I need is my CSS. And under my content, here's my content. I want to take these two files from my font awesome-4.6.3, take both of these files and move them into my CSS folder that's inside my content folder. All right, whoop, inside my content folder. Goodbye. Cool. My fonts all have to move too, because if I want to use all my icon fonts, they have to move into my fonts folder inside my content folder. Let's do that now too. Grab all this stuff and move it into there. You can also copy paste if you want. Now that's all I need. I can just kill my fontawesome.4.6.3 folder. Let's kill that. Yay. So all you should be left with, if I go back to Visual Studio Code, you should, in my CSS folder, I have Bootstrap and Font Awesome. In my fonts folder, for those people who are watching the video, you'll see this later. In my fonts folder, I'll have my Font Awesome fonts plus my glyph icons from Bootstrap. This is all inside my content folder, right? And inside my app.js, my custom app.js, my bootstrap.min.js, my jQuery, and that's it. All right, so that's all we have. So good, we have all these things. Well, guess what? I'm going to start linking all the stuff into my index.html. But for now, because we've added all those folders in here, and I want to make another commit. Lots of stuff changed. Look at 28 new files I added into my project. I want to use this, or you can use command prompt if you like, whatever you like, to add these things to the Git repository. So I'm going to click on this Git icon, and you see all these things. Now, if this will work if your command prompt is functioning with Git If it doesn't function with Git, you will not be able to do this inside Visual Studio Code. You'll have to do it command line wise, right? But what I want you to do is make another commit to your repository. So grab all this stuff and click this little button here, which adds everything, all the changes to the staging area. These are all the stage changes. And now I want to add a new commit message that says added Bootstrap, because that's all we did, jQuery, and font awesome. So that's a commit that I made. I want to click on these ellipses here and click push. And the reason why this all works is because I set everything up in command line first, right? Command line to work with Git, I can do all this. Alternately, you have to do all the other commands from scratch, and the way to do that would be right-click on your project here, open in terminal. And you can also open it in a Git bash if that's working for you, or you can use your Git native application that you downloaded from GitHub. So it would be like desktop.github.com. You go there and download that native app, right? And then you can use a UI version of doing this. But basically, you do the same thing. I'm not going to do them because I've already just done them. I would do a git add dot again. I just did. Press enter. Then I would do a git commit -m if I was going to do by command line, and then put in the same message. So added, you know, jQuery, whatever, Bootstrap. I did a little different order last time, and font awesome, right? And I would press enter. That's number one. That's the second thing I would do after I did my commit message, and then I would do this: git push origin master. Press enter, and it would move everything up to GitHub. So those are the 3 commands you need to update via command line. Okay, both ways. I just showed you. All right, but we've already done that. And if I did a git, here's a real command. If I did a git log shows me all the commits. One of them it's initial commit, and the other one is added Bootstrap, jQuery, and font awesome. Those are my 2 commits, right? Okay, so I'm good to go. I'm ready to add more stuff. I want to add them into my file, though. How do I add this in to make it work? By the way, it's not configured right now. I have to configure my document, my HTML document, to use these other libraries, right? How do I do that? I need to do it in the right order, right? First of all style sheets have to come before my custom style sheet, okay? Anything that comes after my custom style sheet will override my custom style sheet because cascading style sheets. Cascading rules means that the last rule is the one that takes precedence, which means that I have to have all my libraries first, all my CSS sheets from and font awesome, and then I have my own. That's how it has to be. So I have to have those things in before mine, because those are the rules of cascading style sheets, right? Let's do that. So I'm going to just make a couple of lines here, copy this, right? And I'm going to paste it twice. So 1, 2, and I'm going to just change the path. Let's go into my content page, my content folder. Under content, I have a CSS folder. Under CSS, I want to add the first one. There's actually going to be 3 I'm going to add here, all right? So I probably should need another one of these. There we go. 3. The first one I'm going to add in is bootstrap.min.css, this one, right? And I'm going to right-click here and grab my path, copy path, right? So bootstrap.min.css, copy the path, and put it into here, the first line, sorry, that'd be nice. And press paste. Now notice I have all this extra information about me. All I need is things from the content folder down. Get rid of all this. All right? And this is the pattern, so I'll just copy this. Put it in here. By the way, if I'm going too fast, the nice and simple way to follow along would be to wait till I'm done and download my version, right? Dash theme, right? So I need that one too. So one is the standard Bootstrap content, the CSS library, and the second one is the theme that comes with with Bootstrap. It gives you additional styles. Okay, I know this is all set up. You haven't seen Bootstrap yet, but it looks awesome when you get it going. Okay, and the next one would be your font awesome, right? Or if I can see my font awesome here, there it is. Here's font awesome.min.css. I'm going to right click. I'm going to grab this path like I did last time, and I'm going to paste it in here, and then get rid of the other stuff that I don't need. So I don't need anything like this. So I'm going to get rid of all this, user information, and then it's going to be content CSS font awesome min.css. There we go. All right, so my CSS is done. That's the first piece I need. The next piece I need to do is my JavaScript. And just like my CSS, and this is something new for you guys for JavaScript, I want to put all the libraries I depend on before my own custom library, okay? So it means if I want to tap into another library, just like in C# we use a using statement, they have to exist beforehand. We want to put them before my library. So I want to kind of make some space here. In order, I need only 2 of them. So copy this, press 1 and 2, just for space. I don't have to retype everything, right? Those are my 2 libraries here. And let's go into my scripts folder now. And you can see that there is a bootstrap.min.css and a jQuery. I need jQuery first. So I'm going to grab jQuery.min.css, copy the path, go down to this piece, and paste. And get rid of all the ugly particulars, like all this stuff here, right? And the same thing goes with bootstrap.min.js. So right-click bootstrap.min.js, copy path, and go through here, and press paste, and get rid of all this. Hey, in an exam, would I make you do all this work? No. That'd be silly for me to make you do all this work, right? That makes no sense. I would give you a template and say, here, Bootstrap and Font Awesome is installed. Use it, right? Because you don't have any time to do this on an exam. Look, I've just wasted half an hour setting up, right? I mean, that's how long it takes if you're doing a template for the first time. So going forward, are we going to do this again in any other class? No. We're going to use lesson 3 over and over again. We're just going to keep copying it because we have no time, right? So instead of setting up a new thing every single time from scratch, we're going to use this as a template. Once we've finished doing this, this will be our template going forward, okay? All right, so we've got everything we need here, right, in our jQuery. Now we need to use it. How do I use Bootstrap? Because that's what I really want to use. Well, the great thing about Bootstrap is it has some really cool stuff that we can do right off the cuff, right? What it does is it creates something called a 12-column grid. Use a 12-column grid, right? So think about our page broken up into 12 columns, right? That's what Bootstrap does. So if I want to give myself, if I want to lay out my page, talk about CSS layouts, I want to give myself I want to center everything in my page. I can say this to Bootstrap. Bootstrap, I want to use 3 columns for the left side margin, right? And 6 columns for the middle of my page content, right? Out of 12, which means I got 3 on the left side and 3 on the right side and 6 in the middle. So everything is completely centered. Now you might say, okay, who cares? But we can do this. So there's a couple of things we need to do for Bootstrap to kick it off. One is we're going to make this neat. We're going to use this. The first thing we're going to do is use the outside container class. So we're going to say div with a class of container, right? That's what we're going to do here. Okay, I'm going to undo that so you can see that div with the class of container. This is the shorthand. You can also type it longhand if you want to. This is using Emmet or Zen coding if you're using Visual Studio proper. Greater than sign means contains. So div.container contains what? It contains a row, div with a class of row inside of it. Now, we have columns, but we also break the page down into rows. Each row can contain different data, right? So we're going to break our page into rows and columns, almost like a grid layout, which is what it is. And that's the next thing. So it's going to be something like this, right? This is the way we start setting up Bootstrap. These 2 classes, I didn't write them. They're built into the Bootstrap library, right? We're tapping into Bootstrap here, right? We're using another CSS library instead of writing our own because this isn't a CSS course. This is a JavaScript course, right? So we want to look good, but we also want to use stuff that's already out there. Okay, we want to take our files here, this h1 tag and our p tag, take this stuff and put it inside here, right? Into this little container we just created. So cut and paste. And maybe beautify this a little bit. There we go. Okay, that's what you should be left with right now, like this, right? So now I'm going to make another commit so you guys can download this version if you want, right? I'm going to go here, and I'm going to go to here. Actually, you know what? Let's do this one by terminal, using the terminal. Just to make it different. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to say git add dot, right, which adds everything to the my staging area. Git commit -m. I'm going to say applied Bootstrap, to the page. There we go. And that would say git push origin master. And what this is going to do, as long as you're logged in, is it'll push everything up to GitHub. So now your GitHub will look like this. So if you look at scripts, you can see I've got all my scripts in here. You can always download this from me. Just click down, clone or download the zip file, right? And my content has a few folders in it. CSS is where my content is, all my Bootstrap stuff, and my fonts are on my fonts folder. Yay, okay? Now, everything we're gonna do in Bootstrap is documented right here, so there's no secrets about how to do this. So if I wanna know about stuff to do in CSS with Bootstrap, I go to getbootstrap.com, click on CSS, and you can see that there's great documentation and examples of how to do things here in CSS, right? For example, what I want to do today, I also have components. I want to add in a navigation component, a navbar component. So instead of me typing it all from scratch, God no, I want to get this done, from somebody else, right? I want to go into my navbar, click on navbar, and notice that there's a navbar example right here, all the code right here, yay. Notice that there's a bunch of different classes that Bootstrap uses that are predefined. Let's grab all this stuff. So I'm going to copy this little link here. I've just clicked on navbar and gone all the way down. And where I first clicked was, if I go all the way to the top here, I've clicked on components. I went to getbootstrap.com, clicked on components, right? And then I clicked navbar. Then under navbar, you can see that there's a bunch of this stuff done. It has unordered lists and list items and all this kind of stuff, to set up my structure so we can work with something. This is for us to start working with to bite into something real, as opposed to just make like little examples, right? Okay, cool. So I want to copy this, and I want to move this over to my document. Where am I going to put this? Well, I want to definitely put it before my H1 and my paragraph tag. So I want my navigation to flow beforehand. So inside my row, now notice there's my row and my container, right? So way before all this stuff, even before my container, this container is for my content. I want to put my navbar above my content, right? So it's going to go here, right? I'll wait till you guys catch up if you guys are following along. Now I'm going to paste. It's massive. It looks like this, right? It's a lot of work. Here's what I want you to erase because it's too much. You don't need all this. In the top of your navbar, right? I'm going to get rid of, there's going to be down and around my line, if you kind of copied it where mine is, it's around line 30 for me, right? Where the first UL is, underneath what says collapse, navbar collapse, there's the first UL. Start highlighting from there and include everything from the UL down to the first form right here and get rid of it. Get rid of all this stuff, all right? Because you don't need all this. This is like two toolbars in one, what they've given you. So we'll get rid of it all. Yay, I'm left with this. All right, now, notice that there's also a UL in here, as well as an LI with a dropdown, with a class of dropdown. Get rid of that too. This LI with a class of dropdown. Right here, okay? Get rid of that. So that's the list item. Okay, so now you're left with this. That's what you should be left with from navbar. All I've done is taken Bootstrap's navbar and brought it into my files here, okay? This is good. Now, you're going to ask me questions like, wait, Tom, what are these spans here with icon bar? I want you to, remember in a responsive web design, you have this little square that has these little bars that go across, and you press on it and it shows you your menu. We call the little square the hamburger, all right? Or the sandwich, or whatever you want to call it. An example of that would be in regular Chrome. See how there's a little sandwich right here, right? Well, it gives you like a menu, right? Well, in responsive design, our web designs show a little hamburger that shows our menu too, right? And that's what these little bars do. These first icon bars are just, all we're going to do is a class of icon bar that draws a border a few pixels wide, right? 3 times. So 1, 2, 3 borders. That's all it's going to do, right? And then it makes it look like a button. That's all it does. So this is all built into Bootstrap, so don't worry about this. Next, I have one link, and notice that I'm using navbar with another class of navbar right, which takes my navigation links and posts them to the right of my page. So my navigation happens to the right. You can also make it navbar left, so you can have a left nav bar, navigation list on the left of the side. All it is we're utilizing CSS's framework, or the CSS framework from Bootstrap, as opposed to writing our own. Yes. Let me show you. Right? It's only on one page for now because we haven't done that. Okay, so notice that I have my list item here that says link. That doesn't make any sense. Let's call this link home. Well, that's my home bar, right? My home link. I'm going to copy this thing. I'm going to paste this 3 times. So it's going to be home, like we said. We want 3 links for our lab. By the way, it's okay to use my stuff for your lab, all right? Just showing you what I'm doing so you see how you set this up. This is what this whole thing's about, to help you with your assignment number 1 if you don't know how to start, right? Okay, and then 2, 3. There's 3 links here, right? Let me just Command A to select all, or Control A if you're on a PC. Right-click and click Format Code, which will format everything rather nicely, right? It'll indent everything nicely for you if you're using Visual Studio Code. If not, if you're using another kind of IDE or editor, there'll be other commands. Okay, here, notice I have home. My second link is going to be called projects. And the last one, maybe we'll call this about me, a bio, right? I don't have any pages right now. This, remember the href tag, or the href attribute tells us where the link is. The only one we have right now is index.html. So let's put that in. We're also going to make a couple more pages. One of them is going to be called projects, right? Projects.html. We don't have that yet, but we will have it. So right now it'll go nowhere. And the other one is going to be called about.html, right? Because we're not going to call it about me. Just about.html. So those 3 pages, very simple, 3-page site. Good. All right. Let's take a look and see what kind of monster we just created, right? Because we just made a monster. How do I check this out? I'm going to go here. I'm going to go right down to underneath my project, right-click. I'm going to reveal in Finder on the Mac or in Explorer on Windows. And I see that I have my lesson 3 here. I'm going to double-click on my index.html and see if it works. Yay. This is what you should get. Huh? I don't have internet. I'm not using internet, I'm just using this. So do you guys have this? Is it like this? The underline? Huh?
I just didn't change the name, so it should
well,
say link and drop down.
Let's see a couple things. First of all, let's take a look why I got that. So if I go inspect, right, you can see that I've got a couple things going on. Here's my head. Let's take a look at my actual code. So my head shows you all the stuff I got there. All this is still the same. Under my body tag, I'm running this stuff here. So if I look at the container tab, it's right here. My container is underneath my nav bar. And underneath this, it looks like I've got my first paragraph, and I got a bunch of spaces, right? That's why I got nothing in there right now, okay? First paragraph with a bunch of spaces. And that's why I have this big line that's in here. How do I get rid of that? If I was to, you know, go fix that, so let's say I want to get rid of the line. If I go inspect, right-click and inspect, and I inspect this line, right? Do you see, can I inspect the line, first of all? Right? Can I inspect this paragraph? Look at this. As I talk to the paragraph, I got this line that's flat, like this. Why? Because in my app.css, remember last time? We put a border around my my text. There is no text, so the border is collapsed into a line. That's why it looks like this. So to get rid of the border for me, because you might see this from my code if you downloaded it, I need to go there and get rid of it inside my application. So go to my application, go to my content, go to my app.css, and notice that I got my first paragraph border. Let's just get rid of it for now. And now when I refresh my page, I have this. You should have this too. All right, notice that I have 2 things here that are weird. One is my brand. What is this brand thing that I speak of? This is where you put a real image of your logo that I'm asking you to make. Put a logo together. Your name, a couple of letters of your name, maybe some fancy symbol. Maybe make it a, I don't know, be creative, a triangle with your name inside, like TT for me, or something else. Make a logo of yourself or whatever, put it in there. Yep. You can put an image, you can put, you know, other things in here as well. Notice that the bar, the other thing that's weird is the bar. It's really quite ugly, eh? The bar is like kind of this like dark gray or a light gray color. Let's make it ugly still, but less ugly, black. All right. How do I do that? Well, there's a CSS, there's a bootstrap tag for that. Right. So if I go back to here and I go back to my index.html, in my code, my bar is going to be black. You can make yours. There's really beautiful themes for Bootstrap. If you look it up online, you can get blue, different colors, whatever. Here, I'm going to use, under my index.html, I'm going to go down to my nav bar, where it says nav bar. There's a nav bar default. That's the theme color. I want to change this to nav bar inverse, right? Okay, all I'm doing is using a class that's been created by Bootstrap. I'm not making my own. And this is just a structure for my navigation, instead of me having to make my own structure, right? So we can play with something that exists. And by the way, the majority of our web development in real life comes by modifying sites that already exist. We almost never make our own. Almost never. We always try and revise something that exists already, right? So here's an example of that. So here we've just made a black. Let's check this out to see if it looks black. So refresh. Looks like this now, right? Notice that I have still my brand and my about me and projects. Now here's what the responsive design works out to be. We're using Bootstrap. So if I change the size of my page, notice how my menu collapses into this little hamburger. That's what I talked about. That's this image. If I click onto this now, because of JavaScript and jQuery, if I click onto this, I get this thing that's compatible with mobile. So you've got an instant mobile compatible page, right? In a few clicks. Okay. So that's the first thing. That's Bootstrap. Yes. What are you going to ask? You're good? Okay. We're not done. We're not done by far. One thing is, yes. That means your JavaScript isn't correctly made. If you haven't added in on the bottom of your page, you need to have jQuery first, then Bootstrap, then app.js. You need those things, or else your navbar won't work properly. Okay. Yeah, all I've done is says on line 17. I'm gonna update this in a second. I'm gonna put up on GitHub. Give me a second, and then you can see the code on GitHub. Okay. Okay. This is one. One thing is, every time I go to a page, I want my page to tell me that I'm on what link I'm on, and I'm gonna talk about the active link. I want to know when I'm on my home page, like I am now, that this thing should say my active link should be darker than the other ones. Well, there's a Bootstrap class for that, right? I want to keep saying that, right? Like there's an app for that, right? There's a Bootstrap class for that, and that's just called active. I'm going to go to my first list item that shows index.html, and I'm going to put a class of active on my list item like this. Class is equal to active, right? And press save. Then I'm going to go back to my page and refresh, and you can see that now there's an active. It looks different than the other links. Okay. However, it'll be the same. If I copy this page a couple times, it'll be the same one. So I'd have to change the class of active to move from one list item to the others for my other pages. I'm not ready to go there yet, because I want to make my navigation bar perfect and then copy my page. Why would I do that? Because otherwise I'll have to do all that work again and again and again for each page. I don't want that. I want to do it one time really good, and then afterwards I can copy the page. Okay. And by the way, this is like the bare minimum that you'd have to do. In real life, we use templating engines that I can write my nav bar one time and it'll propagate to all my sites, right? We can't do that right now. Yes. Because we're learning JavaScript for the very first time, and I can't do all that stuff in one day. And I already took an hour of your time setting up Bootstrap. We only have an hour left to do your lab, right? Where can you learn about it? You know what? There's a really nice templating engine that I refer you to. If you want to learn a templating engine, this is great to learn. It's called Handlebars. Take a look. Handlebars. Handlebars is a really cool templating engine we're not going to cover right now, right? But this is like minimal, like it says, minimal templating on steroids, right? It's really, really cool. It allows you to do things like use expressions to drop in, things like data inside of your page, as well as simple things like templating. Like if I want to do partial files, so one partial file that allows me to do navigation, and another partial file that allows me to do things like content. It takes a little bit of time to learn, but the templating style, everything is listed here. It's got really good documentation. If you want to learn a very simple templating engine, Handlebars is the way to go. Okay, so take a look at Handlebars. I'm not going to cover that here today. If we have a chance to get to it, we'll do it. It's called Handlebar.js, another JavaScript library. Okay, back to this. So this looks nice, but I want to get rid of my brand. I want to call it lesson 3, right? Let's do that. So up to my brand where it says brand around line 28. I want to change that to lesson 3, right? And also notice that there's an href tag there's a link there, so I can click on my brand and go back to my home page. I'm just going to put in my index.html in here, index.html. There we go. Good. This is great, but it looks like crap, right? I want some really cool icons, right, for my stuff. And let's look at Font Awesome really quickly to see how it gets added in. So Font Awesome, here it is. And I want to click on icons here on the top of Font Awesome. And what it does is when the Font Awesome library is working, I can look at something like this. Let's say I want to use this new icon. I'm going to look at some icons like adjust, this icon. I don't know why I would use this, but let's just say it tells you the code right here. Look, I, which is the I tag, a class of Font Awesome, FA, plus the icon name, FA adjust, right? We can always turn on ARIA as well for accessibility standards if you wanted to. But we just take this piece of code, as long as my Font Awesome is activated, which it is right now, and put that anywhere on our page, and bam, there's this icon that appears. Okay, so I know the fonts, so bear with me while I do it. You copy, I type, and you'll see what you're going to get. Okay. So this is how it goes. So we want to put them here inside of our links, right? The first one I want to make is a little house, a home, right? I want to kind of go into approximately line 33 here, where I have my class of active and my home, and I want to kind of add a space in here, a couple spaces. I want to use the I tag, right? And then I want to type in, dot FA for Font Awesome, right? Dot FA-home for the home icon. That's what it's going to make. And you know what? I want to make it a little larger, and there's a tag for that, FA-LG, which makes a larger font than normal, right? And then I want to press tab. It looks like this. So an I class, an I tag, which normally, by the way, was reserved at one point for italics. That's what we used it for in old HTML. We don't use the I tag anymore. We use CSS, right? But now we're using it for Font Awesome, the I tag. And we're going to take this I tag, because we're going to copy it here, put it up here, and we're going to take this home link and get rid of all the extra spacing here, and make a space happen right here, all right? Now, why have I done that? Because I want a space between my icon, which is right here, and up to here, actually, and my home text for my link. Let's see how this looks, just this link right here, right? So FA home, FA large, right? Go back to my page, which is right here, and refresh, and icon. See? Now you might say, Tom, why do we need icons? Because they're awesome for mobile devices. They're better for mobile devices than what we have here, okay? So let's do the next one. We're going to do projects and about me, right? Well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this icon link right here with the space, copy it, go in front of projects and paste it again in front of about me, right? And now I'm going to change the icon. So instead of FA home for projects, let's use something called TH, which is a grid for projects. And about me would be an info icon, a little I. Yay. Now let's see what it looks like. Right. Nice and fast. So we got this, home, projects, and about me. Right? 2 seconds. And if I was to do this, responsive design kicks in, and I still see my little icons, which makes it nicer. Guys and girls, if you don't know Bootstrap in this day and age, which is the de facto standard, right, for all CSS front-end libraries right now, everybody uses it, right? You would be at a disadvantage. You need to learn this stuff. So we're going to talk about it over the time we're together in this course, right? It's an ancillary technology like GitHub that I'm making you use, right? Because if you don't know Bootstrap, you're not kind of in the flow of the modern stuff that we're doing. Okay, cool. Let's add one more for my little my lesson 3. Some kind of icon there too, might as well, as my little thing. I don't know which one I want to use right now, so I'm going to go to Font Awesome, and I'm going to find something that makes sense for lesson 3. If I don't know what I can do, I can search for stuff, different icons. Like, for example, if I go lesson, might have something, sometimes we don't, right? Or maybe something like project, No. Well, it has lock and unlock. That's really weird. We can also look for, file, right? And there's tons of file icons here, different kinds, right? Film, Firefox, some other weird things here. But there's tons of them. You can also search through the entire icon library. I'm not going to prepare to do that. But we can also look at, I don't know, castle. Let's see if we can do castle. Or how about fort? Fort, there we go. Hey, we got one that's called Fort Awesome. That's cool. How do I use that one? Well, it's Fort-Awesome. That's what I have to use. So I'm going to use this little castle, right? And I'm going to go down here. And then my brand, which is here, I'm going to put the same icon class, which is this iClass right here. Copy it with a little space. And go before my lesson 3 and put it in here. And change this from FATH to Fort-Awesome, which is the Font Awesome de facto default, right? And go back here and refresh, and I should have a little fort that comes up, right? Yay. So what do we learn for this one? Well, we pause for break. We've learned that we have to download Bootstrap, and in order for you to use Bootstrap, you need the jQuery library, which is a JavaScript library that we're going to be using later on in the course. And instead of getting it for us later on in the course, I'm going to get it now, so we have access to it if we really want to, right? Have it. That's one. So we need JavaScript, we need jQuery, and I've also downloaded Font Awesome, which is an icon font library that we can use to enhance the look and feel of our sites, right? And by the way, there's tons of icons. Please don't use the ones I've selected when you're for your little 3-page portfolio site. Get your own. There's tons of them out there, right? On Font Awesome that makes sense. And also, I've used a black background. But you can certainly look at Bootstrap themes. If I was to type in Bootstrap themes, there are a number of Bootstrap themes that you can download. Here's Bootstrap themes and templates. You can see that there are tons and tons of them out here that you can grab. Some of them cost money. Some of them are free, right? Even from W3C schools, right? As well as I think it's Bootswatch. Bootswatch, there it is. Bootswatch.com. It tells you. There's a whole, there's no secrets here. It tells you exactly how to use. These are beautiful. So there's different templates you can use to make your Bootstrap look nice, right? Please don't hesitate to use this kind of stuff. You can download these templates. It tells you how to do it. And it's much nicer than making it plain old black like I have, right? So take a look at these templates. If you're making up your portfolio site, you want to grab at least something that makes your site look professional. All right, so we've talked about Bootstrap. We've talked about the setup. Look at the setup here in our CSS. We've talked about how we need to have our Bootstrap theme, our Font Awesome, and then our app.css. Our app.css always comes last, right? And we also talked about how on the JavaScript side, we need to have jQuery, then Bootstrap, and then our app.js, right? And we need to do that when we set up our file. Okay, this is a great stopping place. Let's take a short break. We'll make 2 more files. We'll make our projects.html as well as our about.html. And then we'll use one app.js to link them all. Okay? And we'll come back after the short break, 5 minutes. We'll be back.